Hey everyone, it's Todd from T-Best Art here. Today I just felt like doing a tutorial about how to create planets. So we're going to do an Earth and we're going to do something like a Jupiter. So cool colors planet, bit of a warm colors planet. So the first thing to do with any planet is just use any color you like and mark around lightly the edge of the planets that you're doing. Apologize for the sound of the rain. Hopefully it's not too distracting at the moment. It is raining here. Okay, so we've marked out where our planets are going. So we start with the lightest color first. Make sure you shake the can really well. And we're putting the yellow and then a slightly darker color on top of that. Orange. So what we're doing here is making the land mass of the Earth. And then red on top of that, and then we want to make brown basically, so we want to put black on top of that. So the next thing is you pretty much can cover most of the rest of it with this sky blue color. Don't cover over that too much, but if you get a little bit of blue on there it doesn't really matter. Alright, so then putting randomly these other colors. This is ocean blue. Hit it with a bit of creation blue. And then over top of that it's going to be white. So I think I might just leave that sit for a bit and let it soak in there and dry a bit more, and we'll move over to the Jupiter type of planet. So if you're a bit concerned that you're going to foul up this, if you have a bigger template, put a bigger one over it while you're working on this over here. I might grab my trusty bin lid. Alright, so this one over here, you can just do like random stripes. So light colour, a bit darker, all of the warm colours on this, then red. Alright, so then over top of that, we haven't laid the colours as heavily on that as what we did with the Earth, so I don't think it's too important to wait for that one to dry. You're pretty much right to hit this with some white over top. And then we might go ahead now with this and pull off some of those colours. So get yourself some old magazine paper. This can't get in the way, so we'll remove that for now. So we just lay that on top. So I've crinkled it up a bit, create a bit more lines within that. We're going to lay that on top of there, and we're going to put a little bit of force with the back of our fingers in a sweeping motion, and that creates that effect that looks just like a planet. So it's really quite nice and easy. So if you pulled off the right amount of paint the first go, which that pretty much is, don't put it back down and try again. But if you find that it looked really messy, then you might need to put that back down and pull it back off again to get a more clean sort of effect. So that's the colors laid down on there. We're going to do the same thing with this now. Probably not so much of the sweeping motion with this one, but before we do that we've got to put our white down. So I think we'll cover this one up with our bin lid. So we're covering the whole of the Earth with gloss white. Now do wear a mask when you're doing this. I'm just not wearing one today because I need to talk. So we've got a magazine paper again. I'm getting close to not having enough, or not large enough size paper, so we might do a different technique with this. Okay, so we're going to use a bag from the grocery store, and I like to get a bit more room with the bag, so break it open like that, and then just place that over top of your planet, and just here and there, make sure it gets some traction. Okay, and then pull that off. You can turn your bag around the other way, get a clean section of the bag, and try again with it. What you don't want to do is you don't want to take off too much of that white. So we've done our color planets now. We need to now shade those planets so that they basically look 3D. Turn the artwork around, and we're going to shade this bottom section here with various blues. So start off with sky blue. So we're hitting it about halfway, right in the middle of the planet there, and we're not going in a straight line, we're going in an arc. Then after that, follow that up with an ocean blue. And then the black. And fast sweeping motions. Okay, if you have some translucent paint, so see-through stuff, you can put that here so you don't lose the texture here. It's important for the bigger scale planets. For this smaller one, there's no real need to use translucent paint. You really wouldn't see the difference with it, so we'll leave that be as it is. Turn this around the other way, and we're going to shade the white part of the Earth. You don't want to get too much white around the very edge, just a little, and then we're going to blast it with white right here. So just around the edge, just around this edge. And then, right about here, take the can up a lot and blast it. Okay, try not to cover up too much of that earth part. If you find your white has sort of fouled up the black a little, hit that black again. It's good to vary up the effects of the planets you do to create interest. So we've gone about a third of the way there with the arc. And then you don't want to lay down the black too heavily. You definitely want it to fade because you'll really notice that otherwise in your artwork. And it won't look very real. So lightly. A light fade, fast sweeps. And that's probably about right. Okay. So, turn that around the other way. Now we'll shade this top section here with the white. Alright, and then we're going to blast it there again. We'll put our stencils back down. So I've got this one, lay it down just where you started. And when you put the stencils down, try to put it straight down. Don't move it around on the surface. It will create very nasty lines. A good idea is to let this dry more before putting these down. We're not going to pause the video at the moment, so we're just going to go with it. We're going to put pretty much black over everything. Already have quite a lot of paint there, especially if it hasn't dried completely. You don't want to lay too much of this black down on the edge, because when you pull this up, it could actually the paint could creep into the planet. Whatever your light source is, which we're going to use those blue colors again, so we're going to start off with the real dark. ocean blue, then the lighter sky blue, creation, some white. So we're going to reflect that in here. This one here is very dark, and it can be a bit unrealistic if I was to do the same technique here. So we're going to leave this one stay as it is, black on the edge, but this one here we're going to do the shading technique. First thing to do is, again, the dark color, the ocean blue on the edge. You can use a bit of that. What you don't want to do is use too much of these lighter colors, so just a little bit. So you can hit it onto here and it will sort of bounce down where it needs to go anyway. So just a little bit there, a little bit of creation blue. And see, when you use the light colors, you always got the risk of it sort of bouncing back too far and fouling up that black. So we'll have to fix that up a little bit. But first of all, hit it again, a little bit of white, just a tiny bit. Now we'll just put a bit more black around this edge part. Alright, so now we're ready to do the stars. So to do the stars, you're spraying the paint onto, this is how I do it, you can do it various ways, but I always spray the paint onto these two fingers. Just take it away from the painting. So the paint's on there, flick that away from the painting, then flick it down onto the painting. I waited too long, no stars. So spray on, flick down onto the painting, not across the painting, because you want to create stars that look like round little balls. And sometimes with stars, less is more, so you don't have to overload the painting with stars. So that's enough little stars. Find your straight edge or scraper. Now I would recommend using the big scraper. I have no idea where it's gotten to, so we're stuck with this little one at the moment. Alright, so you're putting it straight down, almost touching the artwork, but not quite, and spraying this somewhere in the middle. Don't be scared to spray the thing hard, but don't leave it sprayed for very long, otherwise you get all sorts of mess. If you spray it too softly, you'll just get these little dots everywhere. So spray it hard, it just does a nice line. Again. Now something you've got to be mindful of is you're going to get paint build up here. If you do, you need to wipe it off on something, because you don't want all this paint dropping down onto your star. So this star here, it's not a very big star, it's not a very bright star. A bit brighter star, instead of hitting it up the top here, you'll be hitting it a bit further down, but it gets a bit more risky as well. So let's try this. So, not bad, but obviously, you know, it's had a little bit too much of this sort of effect like this, rather than a straight line. What you do with this to make it not look out of place, and it is a very big star, looks like a very bright star, you want to put a little dot of white, just spraying it on the scraper, and letting it run down. And that'll put a big dot in the middle of the star, and put a little one on that one too. So we're pretty much ready to lift these off and see how it looks. So let's hope it's gone well. When you lift it off, just lift it straight up. So if you hadn't let it dry, you lift it up, these sort of smudge lines, here's the lines creeping in. So that's why it is very, very important to leave the paint dry first before putting the stencil over and doing the black part. Let's see if we got a better result with the Jupiter type of planet. We've got the shading around the edge, which really makes it sort of pop up and look really 3D. So I hope you enjoyed that quick tutorial on planets. Sorry that we've got our Earth all creeping in with darkness and other issues here, but I'm sure you get the idea of how to now shade a planet. So thank you.